We have fair play. What happens when a woman works in a male-dominated industry? For example, in finance in New York, does she have to act like one of the bros? And now, imagine that her male fiance works in that very same office, and she gets promoted above him, and now he reports to her. Will they make it to the altar? What do you guys think?
No.
Right. Fair Play is CHLOE DOMONT's first feature, and it stars Phoebe Dynevor of Bridgerton fame, yeah, and ALDEN EHRENREIch, who you've just seen in Oppenheimer. They play Emily and Luke, the couple at the heart of this story. So now please join me in welcoming to the stage writer and director CHLOE DOMONT and ALDEN EHRENREIch. Welcome. First though, we're going to take a little look at a clip. I mean, what a performance, ALDEN. That was blistering.
I thought about the, a Rocky Horror Picture Show where they stand in front of the screen and they act it out at the same time. I could have done a little of that.
I kind of wish you had. So CHLOE, tell us about the kernel of this idea and how it formed. I mean, as I said in my intro, I think, women have experienced that idea of, oh, I'm not allowed to be bigger than the man, I'll get, blowback if I exceed his success. But this film is much more nuanced than that, because we actually look at ALDEN's character, Luke, and see that he is suffering too, and he's in a cage of a different type. Talk to us about how this evolved for you.
Yeah, well, I think it was an idea that was compounding for years, but I think I really sat down to write it when my career had taken off in TV, and it was this feeling that I was having where I would get certain opportunities in commercials or television or whatever, and my first reaction wasn't excitement, it was fear. And it was because of the kinds of relationships I was in. And these were relationships with men who, on the one hand, adored me for my strengths, adored me for my ambition, were championing me, but also there was this unspoken tension and feeling that they needed to get there first, or that me being big, made them feel small, or my accomplishment was somehow a poor reflection of their self-worth. And it was never anything that was spoken about, it was just felt. And I think it just made me realize how much hold these ingrained power dynamics still have over us today, even in a post-Me Too world. I finally sat down to write it, but in talking about like ALDEN or Luke's character and the empathy, that was something that was really important to me, is that we do empathize with him even in moments when we don't like him. Because I didn't set out to make something that was super black and white. I wanted to show that Luke's character, he's a man that represents many generations of men caught in the middle between wanting to adhere to a modern feminist society and in many ways adhering, but still having been raised on traditional ideas of masculinity. And to me, it's like, it's the intersection of those two things. That's where the conflict lies, in the workplace and behind bedroom doors.
I think it really brilliantly speaks to a really confusing place where men are at right now, because if you're out there dating as a man, you're expected to have money and have a nice car and be successful, but you're also supposed to not need those things. ALDEN, tell me about how you connected to Luke when you first read the script and the moment you kind of thought, this part is so juicy, I need it.
Yeah, I think that was from the very first time I read it. There was just so much there, and there was so clearly, I think the thing I responded to the most was that you can kind of feel when you read something, when a writer is writing out of a level of depth emotionally for themselves. You just feel it on a kind of intangible level. And that was the case with this. It speaks to these things in a way that has been really powerful to see the reaction to. And at the same time, as I read it, I felt it's not a treatise, it's an emotional expression of I think, Chloe's feelings and what she's been through. And so it had that ring of humanity to it, and that made it much more exciting and kind of dangerous.
Phoebe, tell us about casting Alden and Phoebe.
Chloe?
Sorry, Chloe.
Everybody.
Common mistake.
I was about to say
It's so
Phoebe
funny.
and then flip the two things. Chloe, tell us how you cast Phoebe and Alden together, and why. How did you know that they would be able to do what we just saw? Because that is crazy chemistry, both sexually and fighting and everything.
Well, in terms of Alden, I mean, I've been a fan of his forever, since his early work, but I think really with Hail Caesar, I think that he showed us with that film that he is one of the most talented young actors of his generation. So he was someone that I've always wanted to work with. And I was incredibly excited when he responded to the script. And there were just so many things about it that told me he was right for this. First of all, not just his talent, but I loved our first conversation because he never judged the character. And I knew that was the way in. You know, it was, and I never judged the character, you know, when talking to him. It was, I just felt like that wasn't going to be the most interesting version if we're both coming in judging this character. You know, we have to understand why he's in pain, you know, and whether or not we agree with it, we just have to understand it. But yeah, it was just a gut reaction, and the way he just understood the script, and we just talked. It was effortless. And then with Phoebe, basically the character of Emily is a rising star in the world of finance. So it was important to me to find a rising star. And what was exciting about Phoebe was that she had that buzz, you know, coming off of Bridgerton, but she hadn't made a big splash in the feature space. So that felt very on brand to Emily. But then honing in on Bridgerton and really watching her performance in that, I just felt like she just had it. You know, I could tell there was a vulnerability and a fierceness. She could do basically anything, because I think like what bothers me a lot when you watch how career-driven or ambitious women are, projected in film and TV, they're often just very one-dimensional or just depicted as ruthless, you know, or cold-hearted or whatever. And I was just like, it was important to me to show that Emily is all these things. You know, there is such a warmth and a love to her, but also she's a killer. And I just knew that Phoebe could give me that range. And then when the three of us got in a room together, I just believed them as a couple. I believed them as a couple, and not only that, I wanted to watch them. I wanted to watch them love each other, and I wanted to watch them kill each other. So that's what made the final decision.
Alden, there are some really, I mean, for want of a better word, gnarly scenes between you guys. And I don't want to ruin it for anyone that hasn't seen it. I hope you've all seen it. But the denouement at the end, you know, is particularly cutting, shall we say? Tell me about actually putting that scene together with Phoebe and how you and Chloe collaborated to make it feel so eviscerating in every way.
Well, I think part of that is the result of how, you know, finely structured the script is that you land in that and you've been through what feels like this really intense ride. And, you know, the other thing was, I think with all of these scenes, because there's so much intensity in the movie, that Chloe did a really wonderful job of we created really an ensemble that was sort of the three of us and the DP, and we did days of rehearsal, and by the time we got into these scenes, we worked with an image coordinator, you know, we did these things that created a little team out of us, and we really felt like we were on the same page, and there was a real trust, and that is, not always the case. Sometimes you show up and you meet everybody, and you're still kind of in your own siloed thing. And so for a piece like this, it just allowed us to, push the envelope and be a little more risky, because we knew that basically we had kind of checked in with each other and we're all doing this together. That's it.
I'm curious, and for both of you, what kind of feedback you've had, because this film is a real conversation prompter. I know that, the friend I went to see it with, we still talk about it. It brings up so much. Tell me what kind of feedback you've had.
I think the feedback has been just incredibly rewarding and thrilling. I've had so many women send me long emails of their personal stories of how they relate to being Emily. And I think that there's nothing more rewarding than having someone come up to you at the end of your film and say, I feel seen. That's been great. I think on the other end of it too is I've come out of certain screenings and I've seen like groups of middle-aged men just standing in circles and opening up at what feels like for the first time and talking about some things that they've been holding, and I think that that's been incredibly exciting. And I would say the most exciting thing is I've seen couples who've seen the movie together and then you see them kind of talking about it after, and then the guy will say something and the woman's like, oh, that's what you thought? And you just know that it's going to be a great car ride home.
Yeah, I wonder how many relationships went a little south after they had that conversation. That's right. Alden, what about you? I think it's really interesting what Chloe said about the men actually being able to talk about things they weren't really given a platform to talk about.
Right. It's kind of, I was basically going to say exactly the same thing, that to have a reaction where people feel seen by your work in any way really feels like sort of the highest order of an audience reaction you can hope for. So it's been that. When we were at Sundance, the whole world there, it was very interesting because we were in, we premiered, I had no idea that other movies at Sundance. It was like, all right, we'll see. And then you're walking down the street and having people come up to you, and this woman came up to me and said, me and my husband work together at this place, and I won't say what place, but she makes more money than him. They were secretly dating for a long time and didn't tell anybody. She was like, this is my story. And the kind of just enthusiasm that somebody has, that's sort of brimming with excitement at having felt seen by a movie, felt less alone by watching something, was really special. Yeah.
Well, for anyone that hasn't seen this, I urge you to go see it, but maybe not with your significant other. And as Chloe and I said earlier, maybe leave some time for a stiff drink before bed. But I absolutely love this, and I just want to congratulate you both for making this great movie. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
And next up, Dominic Patton is back. Welcome back, Dominic.